Hello and welcome back to The Vegan Runner. I'm excited. Today is my first run in the Novablast 3. So this is my first run in the Novablast 3, the new shoe from Asics, and my first time in one of the Novablast shoes. I didn't try the first or second iterations. They get very good reviews. I've heard really good things about the Novablast 3. So in this video, I'm just going to give you my sort of first impressions, my first thoughts on this shoe. We're running for an hour and 25 minutes today, a steady state along the Tucker Trail here, so good sort of variations in pace to really sort of try the shoe out, see how it's like over this kind of long run distance. Terrain's mostly paved tarmac surface, a little bit slippery, a little bit greasy underfoot, but the autumn leaves, so the grip should get a bit of challenge. So we've got this warm up in about zone 2, just gently easing into it, and then we've got a big block of 45 minutes, which will be at a pace that sort of sits somewhere between half marathon and marathon pace, and then a nice cool down to finish. So if you're not familiar with the shoe, it's a road shoe designed for daily running, long running. In the Novablast 3, we've got some new foam, which I think is the FF Blast Plus, which I don't think is a foam I've run in before. I've just clocked up 500 miles on the gel Nimbus 24 that has a Flyte Foam Plus. This one's got the Blast Plus, and that's the major difference in this model compared to the Novablast 1 and 2. So it's a neutral shoe. I think the heel to toe drop is around about 8mm, so if that's wrong, I'll flash it up on the screen now. But my first thoughts picking the shoes out of the box is, wow, I love the colorway, green and black, perfect for vegan runners, but also just how light they are. I believe they're about 20 grams lighter than the previous models. I haven't put them on the scales yet, but they feel like they're around 240, maybe 250 grams. It'd be great just to put them on the scale and see what they're like. And then lacing up, the first thing I kind of noticed was the heel counter. Very similar to the gel Nimbus 24. It's very plush, way more plush than I was expecting from such a light shoe. So if you're familiar with the gel Nimbus collar, very similar on the Novablast 3. It's got that nice kind of locked in, cushiony feeling. And just standing up in the shoe for the first time, I don't feel as squidgy as you'd expect. They've got this huge chunk of that Flyte Foam Blast Plus midsole, especially that wedge at the back. They don't feel as soft and as squishy as you'd expect. Not kind of like marshmallowy pillows, but quite firm. Laces feel nice, they feel quite luxurious. Soft feel laces, quite strange, but lockdown was easy. The tongue is something that's very similar to something I've seen before on the Nike Next Percent. It's got that kind of cut out across the heel to fit the top part of your ankle. And that feels all good, that's quite thin. And then the next thing I kind of realised or felt as I was kind of laced up and walking around, so they feel like super shoes. So they feel a bit like the Next Percent, or the Alpha Flies, if you tried those before. You know what I'm talking about. They have quite a high stack height. They feel quite high off the ground. So very reminiscent of that. Even though they're not a carbon plated shoe, but they have got that huge chunk of foam in the midsole. Something else I noticed out of the box straight away, just looking them over, grip pattern on the outsole, very minimal. Looks like quite thin stretches of rubber there. Be interesting to see how they go over. I'll be reviewing the durability of the shoe and performance of the shoe at 100 miles, and then hopefully take them to 500. And the upper as well feels very luxurious. It looks luxurious, feels pretty comfortable. just first impressions in the first sort of 10 minutes of this run. It's not the most breathable of uppers. That's not too bad. We're heading into winter now, so that's no bad thing at this point. Okay, so 20-minute warm-up's almost complete. First things I've noticed that this shoe is so similar to those super shoes. Really does kind of have this pop and bounce in that foam. Very interesting. Makes you want to run a bit faster than maybe you should. Gets you up on your toes. I think if you can imagine an Alpha Fly or an X% without the carbon plate, it's kind of what these are. Very interesting. Everything feels good. Stability feels fine. Upper feels nice and secure. Toe box is quite nice and wide. The only thing that's given me a tiny bit of cause for concern is the grip. I am running in challenging conditions. It's very greasy underfoot, lots of leaves on the floor, but every now and then you can just hear that rubber squeaking, slipping slightly. So it'll be interesting to see when this 45-minute rep starts at a bit faster paced, something like a 7-minute mile or so, how the traction copes. But otherwise enjoying it. Okay, first couple of miles done. It's my tempo pace, 6:30s, and really enjoying the shoe. Overall, there is just still that slipping. It's more prominent now at a higher speed, that squeaking. But on leafless stretches of tarmac, no problem at all with the grip. Quite sticky actually. It's just on that wet leaf surfaces it's struggling a little bit. Not enough to kind of worry about slipping and falling over, but just you can feel that kind of loss of traction. Everything else feels good. I really like this midsole. Quite bouncy, quite poppy, feels alive. The weight of the shoe feels good with that leg turnover. Okay, final 30 seconds of this steady state effort. Pretty much 6:40 straight for 7 miles. Come on, not bad at all. Very fun shoe to run in. Poppy, bouncy. You're running a lot more in the forefoot and that midfoot. It's that big wedge of foam at the back, really. Just for stability, I think. Maybe for that extra bit of pop and bounce. But yeah, strange shoe, because it feels, the only experience I can sort of liken it to is the next percent or the Adios Pro 3, where they have that carbon fiber plate. Obviously you can tell that it doesn't have one. It's not as stiff, but yeah, really interesting. Definitely got that pop and that bounce. Be interesting to see how that develops over the next 100 miles or so, whether that stays the same. Right, time for a quick cool down. So the outsole, just the last word is sort of on the outsole, on the grip. It's all right. It's absolutely fine on normal tarmac. I have a lot of confidence in it. On those wet leaves though, hopefully the camera can pick it up. It's very squeaky. So if you're heading into a winter race along a trail like this, might be something worth considering, because it's a very squeaky shoe on wet, slippery leaves, but absolutely fine on sort of normal conditions. Noise-wise as well, a little bit, touch on the loud side, I'd say, but not very much. That's good as well. I didn't feel like I was fighting the shoe to stay at like that steady state pace. Felt pretty natural. So even though it's quite a built-up shoe, quite a maximalist shoe, it doesn't feel heavy and clunky. Feels pretty good. I'm excited to see how these feel over a long run in a zone 2 sort of pace, and something like a sprint session as well. where you're really up on your feet and going for it over a kind of like 30-second or minute interval. I can see them being quite good for that. I think they'd make quite a good track shoe. So if you're around a track often and you need something, it's a bit like the Next Percents, I think it'll do well there for going around the track. Good road shoe, I think, overall. It's nice to be in something a bit lighter and quicker. The last two shoes were all around the sort of 300 gram mark. Yeah, and I don't know the weight of these yet. I'll pop it up on the screen now, but they must be somewhere around the 250 mark. That's what they feel like to me anyway. Nice and light. Now when you're running in those maximalist carbon fiber shoes, often in the sort of cool down zone 1 kind of pace, they feel quite wobbly and quite unbalanced. These don't, so even at the slower pace feel quite comfortable. Could happily plod along in zone 1 for half an hour or so. So I think they're going to make a really good daily trainer. A bit of a can do it all shoe really. So I'll get them to 100 miles, won't be too long, and I'll do a full review, see how they are. So if you've enjoyed this one, it'd be great if you could click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Plenty of videos coming up, lots of good content, marathon training, ultra marathon training, park runs. But yeah, thanks for watching, and until the next one, be the best you.